Welcome to What No One Knows, the podcast that tells the secret behind the published books, hosted by Lisa Marie Garcia, the Chief Operating Officer of Now Publishing, a full-service book publishing and author PR firm. Through the years in the publishing industry, we've heard the statement over and over, "This is what no one knows," when we interview would-be authors wishing to tell their story. This is what this podcast is all about. And now to our podcast and our host, Lisa Marie Garcia.
Hello, listeners, and welcome to another episode of What No One Knows, the Now Publishing podcast. We're very excited today to have an author named LEA TRAN. I'm sorry, I need to start again. I saw the pop-up from you, and it threw me off, I think, Kate. Sorry. Start just again. What did you say? We're good though, right? Oh, it just says added LEA to the conversation. All right, hang on. LEA TRAN. Hello, and welcome again to another episode of What No One Knows, the podcast sponsored by Now Publishing. I am so excited today to talk with LEA TRAN. She is a new author, and her book is a story of amazing survival from a country outside the U.S. And her journey from there to here. So I'm not even going to spill the details regarding that, but I'm super excited to have her here today to talk with us. She's also a dynamic speaker. And you might have even heard a little bit about her because she actually was featured on a TED Talks just recently. We're going to go ahead and dig in and get to know her a little bit well. So I'd like to first welcome LEA TRAN to the show.
Thank you, Lisa. It's nice to be here.
Thank you so much for giving us a little bit of your time. So I want to talk about, I'd like you to give just the highlights and give the listeners an overview to the really 40 years you span in your book, talking about and the book's title is I Did Not Miss the Boat. I love that title. If you wouldn't mind talking about that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the opportunity to tell a little bit about my book. And I know that time is constrained, so I'm going to be a little short and just give you a quick overview. So the journey is I am a Chinese minority in Vietnam, and that's why you see the subtitle is called Memoir of a Vietnam-Hoa Refugee, because there's a lot of Vietnam refugee stories from the boat people era, but not too many from the minority group that is actually speaking up. This is actually a large population in South Vietnam that are Chinese, and they kind of like, I wouldn't say the word segregated, but we do everything together. We have our own community, our own school system, our own religious churches and temples. So that's why the name is Hoa. Not HOA. So I just want your audience to understand what that word means to me, because this is actually telling a double minority story from me to the world of this population. And the journey was rough. And like I said, I was born in Vietnam. Pre-communist time, we had a really nice life, sort of, because my dad actually built up his life from the ground up, coming from China to Vietnam when he was 3. So it was a rough road for him, but he actually nevertheless built a business, and we were actually a middle-class family. We were very comfortable, and then all of that has spiraled down since the communists took over in 1975. And by 79, we were living in fear because government can actually come in and confiscate everything at any minute, any time. Lots of oppression. So we were looking for a way out, just like hundreds of thousands of other people. And we looked out to the sea. So that was the only way that is hopefully will secure us a freedom. And so the sea passage was rough, and we got about 4-time pirates raided. And so the long stories is all in the book, but the journey that coming to America didn't end when we settled in America, because, without the language, without knowing the culture shock, and, everything was just starting from the ground up. So I particularly, I think being the oldest of the the family, oldest daughter, I have a big bear, of responsibility of how to lead the family out of poverty. And the book is just a little more detailed than I want, but it's will bring the audience from the life of Vietnam and to America, and how I get out of it, and how I graduated from college and being a research chemist. And it ends right there. It didn't end further because I have part two to continue somehow.
That's right. That's right. That's what you're working on right now this year. I love there's a few things that you said in there I want to go back on. Your father, and I have read some of your book. I haven't finished the whole thing, but it's just fascinating. And as you said, first of all, you said there's maybe more detail than you wanted. And we've talked with our authors in the past where, when they journeyed with us, and I think this might be true for you as well, as you're writing your story, you're having to go back and relive it, right? You're having to go back and really dig deep. And sometimes, memories and feelings and emotions and all of that comes up to the surface that you thought that you might not even know were there. Right. Yeah. But that's really the way that, the readers really understand, from where you speak and from what you were going through. So I appreciate that. And what comes to mind in your book is how you talk about the sewing and what you did. So I'd like you to kind of talk through that, where I think you even explain it, that, you kept your focus on that, so to speak, so that you could just kind of survive through your days while you were there. And I think if anything right now, people are looking to hold on to something as this 2020 hopefully gets behind us very soon, that might make a normal life. So if you would kind of share a little bit about the sewing part of your book.
Sure.
I did not miss the boat.
Sure. Well, I think with anything, when major changes hit you like a brick and you get discombobulated, I mean, first you're going to be disoriented and you don't know what direction to go. But soon you're going to have to stop and pause and say, what can I actually do with my skill, with my talent to make the best out of it and to kill time? Because the more you are not doing anything, the more you will get nervous and afraid. So if anything, better than nothing. I mean, at that time I was young, so I have to say that I'm giving credit to my mom and my dad, because I was young. I was 16, so I didn't know any better. But I know I have that sewing skill, and my mom is a great tailor too. So we kind of team up, and it just kind of fall in our lap because people lost their clothes through the sea passage, and they need new clothes to go to interviews. So opportunity, and we just grab it, and we know that we can use our talent to kill time. First of all, second of all, to make a little living, supplementing the food that we get from UN, which is nothing but canned food, sardine, and a little bit of cabbage, and that's all. So I would say that to listeners that, I mean, COVID-19 hit us like a brick, and it's nothing better than just take a pause, take a deep breath, and reevaluate what assets do you have, what talent do you have, and take it out and spin it around and use it and make a new opportunity for it. So that's what I do. Also, I'm using my sewing skill and make masks in the very early stage in March, and it will make you feel better, productive, and kill time. And then you can re-strategize what to do next.
It's absolutely on point. I'm going to go ahead and just share with the listeners right now that we've asked you to be a contributor in our top 25 change makers book, which is actually on pre-sale right now. And what you're saying is what we're hearing from a couple other of our contributors. And it's this idea where you say, what can I do best with my time? What skills that I have right now, where I'm in 2020 and it's a completely different, land, environment, life, year, just like in your book, here you are 16-year-olds. And actually, I'm so impressed that you had that discipline and forethought and to do what you did at 16, because I'm a mom of an almost 16-year-old, and I can't even imagine, what the freak out would be probably my daughters if they lived your life. In fact, I have required reading in my family, and I'm going to say this is required reading, I'll tell you. But I love, Lee, that you're definitely an author of of change. You're flexible, you're nimble, and you're, insightful, where you stop and say, okay, how can I utilize my skills in this new environment? And I think it sounds so simple to us. I agree about it. You do, but you know what? Not everyone thinks that way. That they
Well, I
really
want to
don't.
say is sometimes when
Mhm.
you are put in the environment of survival, you don't have much of a choice, but that's what you do to survive. And I'm sure if your daughter put in that situation, her survival skill will rise up. So you don't have to worry because she never have to worry her life. So,
That's true.
and if she's put in that condition, she will thrive in that condition. So I wouldn't be worried.
Well, thank you. I hope that's true. Let's talk about, you gave credit, as a teenager, and I read a little bit about, your father. You brought your father up. Another, important point here is having a mentor. And it sounds like, especially he was a business owner. Just, did that shape we're building a book called The Entrepreneurial Mindset right now,
Right.
and there's factors in that. Can you just talk about that a little bit with your father and what
Absolutely.
that meant to
Yes.
you? Mhm.
So my father is very critical in my upbringing. He's also so a lot of damaging belief in me. I want to say that in both way. I really appreciate what he taught me, which is like have a vision and focus. And he literally built that boat. He was a project manager, and that boat carried over 500 people and saved their lives to freedom. So I don't want to say anything small about my father because he played a large role on how I should think analytically. He's
Right.
very a man of detail, and I think detail and consistent work and hard working is what bring you um, to success in life. The only flaw that my father has had was he was trauma all his life. He was in
Mm.
lots of trauma, and so he loves in a very control way. So he always want to know where is you're about, and he's always looking out for that protection. Make sure that you're safe. And sometimes his showing of love didn't come across as loving because of the strong discipline that he possessed. And there's time we felt like we are being constrained because there's no freedom there.
Right.
You have to be home on time to have dinner. Uh, every day, and which are good stuff, but when you were a teenager you feel like you are being tied up, you're not having any freedom. And it take me this many years to understand that my father did that. Everything was out of love. um, and this book actually helped me heal a lot of the
Mm.
grudges that I had for him. And he another flaw he has is very temperamental, and he scared me a lot when I was young. I'm always like feeling I'm walking on eggshell, and and that fear have dampened my spirit a lot growing up because I just didn't feel confidence, and I'm always like fearful of doing things, taking risks. But I understand that you can't have both ways. So I take the good and turn it into I take the whatever that his goodness, and I expand on that, and whatever is not so good that I don't think that family should. I should guide my family in that, and I'm just minimize that and trying to explore the goodness in him and carry that as his legacy.
So wonderful that you shared that. And I think that's the nice thing as children mature. The criticism and the judgment, and some of it's that of our parents, and then
Mhm.
the eyes that we see them through. As we mature, we understand and have a little bit more compassion for them.
Right.
I definitely have it in my life where I realize that they're doing the best they can based on the parenting they got, right?
Absolutely. Yes,
And
absolutely.
if they didn't have any other mentors in their life, having a
Right.
mentor really is like a
Right.
30-year-old kind of thing. It really
Oh
wasn't a
my
part of their
gosh.
life, right?
Yes.
And now you talk to millennials and they all have coaches and they all have mentors, and
Yeah.
it's wonderful. They mentor themselves, and they do all of, they have all of that. Well, our parents didn't have that.
Right.
And so they were taught the way to move through the world through their
Right.
parents.
So
And
I have to give
mhm,
credit to him, both my
yeah.
dad and my mom. My dad never got through third grade.
Oh,
In so he would read a little bit in Chinese, but he was completely does not know Vietnamese. So he recognized just that